Hello to you, and welcome to a very special Vivaldi live stream. This is part of our interaction field series, and I'll come to that a little bit later to talk about what that's about. My name's Dave Burse. I am a creative director at Vivaldi, and today's show is not about me. I'm going to play a very small part in this show. It's going to be about a conversation between the founder of Vivaldi, Eric Joachimsthaler, and Julie Roehm. Now, let me tell you about Julie. Julie is an incredible marketer. She is the Chief Marketing and Experience Officer at Party City. And over the last few months, when she's been in the role, she's made some incredible changes, and we'll talk about some of those during the show. She's done lots of other incredible marketing stuff. She's been at Walmart, SAP, Ford, Chrysler, done some amazing work. So really looking forward to what she has to say. And she has got some great stuff to say because we already chatted to her about some of this stuff before the show. So I'm going to start by introducing, first of all, the man behind Vivaldi, Eric Joachimsthaler.
Hi there.
Hey, Eric. So you're based in New York. Let
me check.
Well, it says it in your name tag. So, so Eric, could you tell us why we're calling this series the Interaction Field series?
To me, it has a name. The name interactions. It's about experiences. It's about not just transactions, but interactions. And I think today consumers demand a lot more interactions rather than being sold to, being marketed to, being communicated to, as it used to be. And so I think this transaction to interaction reflects a bit sort of the changing field we all live in.
And Interaction Field just so happens to be the name of your wonderful book that comes out in less than 3 weeks now.
That's correct.
Oh, it's getting exciting now. So let's now introduce Julie Roehm. You're joining us from Connecticut, which looks beautiful and sunny where you are.
It's actually correctly Roehm.
It does have good underpinnings. Yes, it does.
So this is the point where I am going to back away because you guys are going to chat for about half an hour, and then we want the audience to come in with questions. So if you've got a question for Julie or for Eric, then please put it in the comments. Let us know who you are and where you're coming from as well. Let's get those comments going. After about half an hour, I'm going to come in with some of these audience questions, and we're going to put Julie and Eric on the spot. So I shall back out now and leave it to you guys. See you short.
Thank you. Julie, I think we should put us respectively on the spot now.
Right.
So I'm just interested in I read about Party City. I sort of like said, like, I know those category killers, the Staples of the world, those big box retailers, and then there's Party City. There's not another company like that. 900 stores in the United States, and what I call a vertically integrated firm, because it's not just a retailer, it's also a manufacturer, and with a flagship product, which is as simple as it gets, balloons. And I'm just interested because there's a couple of things that makes me interested, and I like to hear what's your experience, because you're 6 months on the job with this company, and the whole world is changing, and I'd be interested to hear from you. What is it, the things that is sort of on the top of your to-do list, if you will, or the company's to-do list? And so how do you deal with maybe the pandemic in the first place? Because if you sell party supplies through a big box sort of retail 900 retail store, that alone must be a big change to in the last months. So what is it like?
So I started with Party City in December. And I was the chief experience officer then. And when I started, the purview was very clear. We wanted to, actually through our new CEO, his name's Brad Weston. He started in August of last year. So there's been a lot of new faces brought into the executive team here at Party City. But his vision was really to move Party City as a total enterprise and company from being just the provider of party goods to the provider of the entire party experience. And so as chief experience officer, that felt like that was a big sort of point in my direction. What does that mean? But certainly, so when we think about the party itself, it's an experience, it's a moment, and that is our goal, is to help people create joy by making memorable moments, unforgettable memories. That is what we are in business to do. And so I have to tell you, of all the companies I've worked for, there's no better mission than this one. I mean, I get to come to work with a total focus of trying to make people joyful, help them create joy for others, right? So that's great. I have meetings about balloons and birthdays. Not so bad, right? These are great things to do for a living. And so when you think about the experience,
you're the friend of a lot of people, because a lot of people, in the pandemic, in the isolation, says, call Julie, she helps us do a party.
We need to create some joy here. It's getting desperate in these isolation.
The joy lady.
Our own. So it's, we really just wanted to follow the customer, and what is it that the experiences look like? And there are all kinds of experiences. I mean, the emails and the letters we get from customers are amazing, whether it's a gender reveal for, an impending birth, or whether it's a wedding, a graduation, a birthday, or even we had somebody down in Louisiana, as we're talking, obviously there's a big hurricane that's hitting the southern part of this country. And, there was somebody yesterday, not in the evacuation zone, but who was going to be affected. And, they had a child who had died at the age of 12. And this was like the 10th anniversary of that. And they do something every year to celebrate, his life. And they needed these special balloons, and the store nearest to them didn't have these kinds of balloons. But, our store associate went above and beyond to go get these and to make this happen. That is the experience that we want to give to our customer, is equal parts the things that make it up. So whether it's the balloons, the plates, the favors, the tents, the bouncy castles, all of that we're working on as well. But it's also the experience that they have interacting with us, right? Yeah. It's the experience that they get online, which we are working on improving, shifting us from being a category seller online to really an experience seller online. Same in our stores. We're rolling out an entire next generation of stores that is really much more theater. It feels a much more like what we want, what people I think would expect. So there's a lot of opportunity here for us.
So what seems to be the real tension is that how do you do that when everything you plan has to change? Because you say, I'm going to create a store experience. Well, in the pandemic, that store experience, or post-pandemic, that store experience has to be a different one. So in terms of like the physical experiences that we are a party, even that is changing. So how does it work? Can you manage? It's almost like manage in as while things constantly change. You don't know what kind of party experiences, let's say, Thanksgiving is going to have.
It's true. And so I started in December. Then the pandemic hit in March.
Good timing.
The end of April. I was also made CMO in addition to CXO, and so very much been focused on sort of the web and our marketing and our messaging. And to your point, when you had, and I think like all retailers, we had to shut our stores. I mean, unless you were essential, and we weren't sadly considered essential. I think creating joy is essential, but not everybody agreed. Apparently the government didn't agree. So, but we did have to close all of our stores, but yet people still needed what we were offering, right? They needed it maybe more than ever because of the uncertainty. And so we just leaned in heavily to what people were doing, because when stores were closed during the height of the pandemic, birthdays still happen, anniversaries still happen, people are still giving birth. And these are reasons to celebrate whether or not we're in a pandemic. Now, you can't do it the way that we would have normally done it, but we wanted to be able to make it easy for them to be able to still do something. So we kind of leaned into this virtual party situation. We created For birthdays, we created these drive-by birthday kits. So if you could go on, and we made it simple for you to go on and find if you had a child who was all about Spider-Man, for instance, right? We created these kits for like 8, if you wanted 8 people or some number of people. That whole kit that would have all the things that you needed, the favors, all the rest, would be delivered to your house. And then what you would do is you would take all those favor bags and you would go and drop them in the driveways of all of your guests. Then there was an e-invitation that would invite them to come online to whatever platform, and you would have to celebrate the party there, and everybody would have their favors. We had free downloadable games that you could still play online, so that you could still have sort of that moment. And those are the kinds of things. Graduation, my son graduated from high school. He's one of those who was caught in the 2020 graduation cycle. And the graduation parades were massive, and the balloons. And so leaning into creating car kits and personalized signage, for your lawn signs or banners, we did a ton of that. So there was, what I'm always amazed by is people's imagination. People want to celebrate. They want to be happy. They want to create joy, regardless of the situation, and the creativity that is there. They will figure out a way to do it. And so we just wanted to lean in and make it easy.
What I read, and I think what you say is the creativity and the imagination that people have in doing parties. But it's also, when you have 900 stores, you have 10,000 employees or more. I think one thing I read is that it's actually the store clerks, everybody in the front line sort of said, if we want to open the stores, this has to be different, and we are, and I think everybody sort of learned how to play a new, almost like throughout the playbook, if you will, the typical playbook. I stand behind the counter, and run the items through to, here's how I help deliver parties and create the experiences.
That's right. No, absolutely. And to your point, in addition to that phenomenon, I think, really rolling over us quickly, and our associates just jumping at the chance to do exactly what you said, we also wanted to lean in heavily, and we chose to really thrive during the pandemic rather than simply survive. So I talked to you about the kits and those kinds of things, but in addition, when the stores were closed, they started to open, of course, and now we're completely open, but they opened slowly. And so we knew also that we needed to figure out a way to deliver the goods, because look, Amazon, everybody, the UPS and the FedExes of the world were slower because they had a social distance, and, your distribution center. So getting the goods to people through the traditional, shipping methodology wasn't optimal. So curbside pickup, same day delivery were essential in getting us through there. And again, I think those things are here to stay. In fact, I know they're here to stay. So we are leaning heavily into that and adding technology to make that easier. But when we introduced it, it was a very big transformation that our associates had to quickly adapt to, because we'd never offered curbside and we never offered same day. And literally, I've told the story before, but I have a lot of auto experience. Ford and Chrysler, that was mentioned at the onset, and know a lot of people in the auto industry. So we were connected with Hertz, and I reached out to them and said, look, you guys probably aren't renting a lot of cars during the pandemic, and you probably also have a lot of employees who would like to be gainfully employed still. We could use some delivery drivers. You guys have minivans, and guess what? We love minivans, because anybody who's tried to put balloons in their cars, that it's a limited experience. And so a minivan solves a lot of those problems. So we worked with Hertz, and from the first phone call I made to them, to first delivery was 8 days. And so we built it, and now it was very manual. It wasn't all automated, but we just wanted to lean in because it's what our customers wanted. And we knew that we just had to jump in and make do, and we would learn a lot quickly, and we would optimize quickly. And, today we have curbside delivery in every single one of our stores, and we have same day delivery in the vast majority of them. So it has been a real transformation for our associates.
And it's sort of interesting. In hindsight, we can look at it and say your new CEO starts in August, new leadership changes. You come in board in December, so in a way, you are almost like fresh to the industry, or fresh to this company, and that actually worked in your favor, because you didn't say, we are not doing this. We have never done this. Our operating procedures are X. You actually said, what must we do in the pandemic in order to reopen the stores, or in order to do business in a closed store environment? So in hindsight, all these changes, the transformation is sort of like it requires a new team where people say, we are doing new things here, in some ways.
Well, and I think that's true. We didn't,
Yep.
not everybody is new. There's a lot of people. I think it is the blend that makes this special.
Yeah.
You want people who really have had the experience with the company, who understand, and then you want some new thinking and some fresh thinking. And we've got 4 pillars internally. This is total inside baseball speak, but we focus first of all on the customer first, the fact that people matter, that it can be done. So to your point, it can be done. And lastly, to celebrate. Don't forget that we're in the business of joy. So let's celebrate the things that we do. And so what you were just saying really leaned into that. Look, it's the customer first. What do they want? What do they expect? People matter. How do we do this in a way that keeps our employees safe and makes them feel comfortable? And it can be done. So it is not acceptable to say, nope, it just can't be done. Look, everything can be done. It may not be done in the way that you initially think about it, but it absolutely can be done if you kind of break it down and get to the heart of what is it that we're really trying to accomplish? What is it we're trying to elicit? And that is a team effort. So that is by no means, Julie is Chief Experience and Marketing Officer. I go nowhere without like a great CIO. If you don't have a customer minded CIO, CTO, I don't think you can be successful. That's just me. I mean, I just said it can be done. I don't think it can be done. Frankly. And it's merchant and stores. You got to have a team.
Yeah. So a lot of the things I experience is that, a lot of it, you change the way you transact in some ways. You change the way people buy, you deliver it using Hertz things, people buy mobile. But most of that is just improving or digitizing transaction. You mentioned the CTO, that is helpful. But so where is this going? Because if you really want to be I'm curious, sort of, what is the vision of Julie Roehm in terms of experiences, or the company, of course, Party City, sort of because it can't stop here, because you're basically making things easy, but consumers just don't want easy. They want a lot more, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think easy is certainly our guiding principle, because, we think about customer satisfaction scores. I always say that we are trying to measure a customer effort score, a CES, not a CSI, because it's one thing to say, well, were you able to find what you wanted? Were you able to get it? Were you able to, were people greet you? All those questions that you typically get. I'm much more interested in learning, well, was it easy for those things to happen? Because when you peel that onion and you find out, was it easy or was it not easy? That's where you start to see the opportunities. And so to your point about like, what's next? So certainly, curbside, same day delivery, that's not reinventing the wheel. That's, I think, that's just catching up to, what customers expect. Going beyond that, we are in the process. I'm just so excited. We have so much coming. I am a like super impatient person, as everybody would tell you. And so it just can't happen fast enough for me, which is why I have to have great partners in my like CIO, CTO, and ops team, because they keep me grounded. But the opportunity are things like the technology that happens in the store. So, we're looking at, contactless technology, because I think pandemic or not, people I think so too. They appreciate that shopping, methodology. So we're looking at that. We are, for Halloween, which is our big season. It's like our Christmas for most retailers. That's Halloween for us. We're looking at virtual experiences. So whether you're in the store or outside of the store in line, and people do line up for the Halloween season, it's crazy, that they can have a virtual experience while waiting in line and actually do some pre-shopping as if they were standing in the store.
Mhm.
That's working. We've got an entire party planning team that we are developing right now, and they are full of people with actual party planning event experience, but who are also great, I would say, salespeople, in that they understand how to connect and talk to customers and actually really hear what it is they want. Because I think anybody, if you think about, like, okay, you've got a child, there's a big event, like, I don't.
Yeah.
It's like, it's one thing to be like, okay, what should we do? And another, it's like, well, if we're going to host it in our backyard here, like, what should we have? Having somebody there with
Oh,
you,
yes, absolutely.
and
I
then
need
you,
I need that for every event, in my family here, and there are plenty of them every year.
and helping you figure out what, like,
Oh,
understanding and how and what you want, and then getting it delivered to you, and then helping you figure out how to clean it up, or like, I also need a caterer. That is what we're building. So we're building that entire
wow.
marketplace, and it's, it won't happen overnight. I don't know that it'll all happen this year, but that's our vision. We
Yeah.
want to be able to provide the whole experience.
I think that really is what I talk about in the actions, because this is where you really, it's almost like you say customer first, but that's where you have a direct connection with the customer. You learn from customers, you enable customers, you actually orchestrate, you become almost an orchestrator of their party experiences. So it's a very different way to push out party supplies, balloons, if you will, on one side, and everything else that goes along with a party, versus actually providing that almost like consultancy in some way. So I think this is where, in my opinion, I think all retailers have to go in some way. I think it's sort of like a nice thing to, Halloween is coming up, so you're sort of like, you're not planning it, you're actually doing it.
Well, that's true, right? Because Halloween, I fingers crossed that we can all go out and about. I don't really think that'll happen. I think that it's going to be a very different Halloween this year, but it doesn't have to be bad. And for a lot of people, Halloween is their favorite season. It's one of my Halloween, Thanksgiving are my favorite seasons. Actually, it's, holidays to celebrate. But you think about the Halloween season, and it's like, okay, it's about dressing up, it's about decorating, it's about trick-or-treating. Well, we're probably not gonna be able to trick-or-treat in the same way. So we're already seeing decor taking a bigger role, because people they want to outwardly celebrate in some way. And so the decorating is a very easy way to do that. But they still want to, like, on the day, have some sort of experience. So we're leaning heavily into, like, the booing and the ghosting, which, for people who don't know what that is, that's you get like a bag and you fill it with treats and things, and you go leave it on somebody's doorstep, and you ring the doorbell and you run away, and they don't know who it's from. It's the booing and the ghosting, right? But it's also the trunk or treating. So you're able to put like goodie bags in your trunk at the end of your driveway, and so people can go and take an item. So you're not necessarily having the face-to-face interaction. There's certainly a social distancing. And we talked a little bit before we got started here, and I was saying it was literally just came yesterday, and we're following it up today. But we have a whole bunch of influencers that we have on staff, and we saw that people were buying Easter eggs, and I was like, that seems pretty early to be buying Easter eggs. Is this like, I wonder if there's something about, like, candy and an Easter egg that's safe? And sure enough, there's a couple of things. So one, you can think about, like, these plastic Easter eggs as like a mask for your candy. So if you put your candy in the Easter egg and you hand those out, it's a much safer way for kids. They're not all reaching and grabbing. Like, think about all those kids that grab in the bowl of candy. It's like a cesspool of germs, right? And so this way they're taking the Easter egg out, and then the candy's inside of that. So that is genius. So we saw little postings of that. We saw people who put, like, lights in these Easter eggs and then set them all around, and so at night light up. Lots of things. We are trying to lean into this same notion too. So when people order online and have it shipped from our distribution center, it comes in a box. You get stuff in a box. Well, for Halloween, our boxes are orange, and they've got like a black jack-o'-lantern on the faces of them. And then we give instructions for how to carve out that black part of the jack-o'-lantern and put, like, a glow stick in it, and then stack them on your yard. And so it almost becomes kind of like an actual pumpkin, but there are these boxes, and it becomes your own sort of decor. So, like I said, the creativity is there. We just have to lean into it. And we do want to be inspiring for people. We do want to make it easy for people to do these things. And, we do follow what we see people already starting to do. And our influencers are, amazing. Like these people, like they come up with ideas and we just jump on them as quickly as possible. And I think that is a part of that can-do attitude.
Right.
People see something like, we can do this, let's do that. And let's just test it. And if it doesn't work, that's fine. And so we do have a fail fast forward mentality too. There is no, we don't punish people for trying something that doesn't work. What do we learn? That's important.
I mean, from my experience is that it's in a totally new environment. When if I had to talk to a person like you as a chief experience officer, or a chief marketing officer, I would have talked about a 3-year plan and how we execute that and the budgets for next year and what kind of experience we orchestrate. And what I hear from you is on one side, your stories sort of are about this is what we actually do, this is what we deliver, look at the box. So there's a tangibility, or you express the creativity for creating these experiences. At the same time, your job is also to work with the CTO to scale that experience to 900 stores, and so it's sort of like your customer first in some ways. So if you think of my question is this: I mean, how can your car experience at Ford and Chrysler have you prepared for this? If a car is built in 5 years, you do a lot of planning, and so this is a totally new sort of.
It is and it isn't. At the end of the day, I will say this. So your opening part about like your CIO and your CTO, that's true. But when I just talked to you about like the Easter eggs, my chief merchant, he, as a partner of mine, he's got to be able to help me get that. And our head of supply chain, he's got to make sure we've got enough supply chain to fill in that if I go, talk about it, that we can actually fulfill it. Our head of store ops, he's got to be able to work with the store associates to make sure that they can deliver internally. So it is a group phenomenon. And you take that back to my automotive days, and it's the same thing, right? It's the exact same thing, because you had a car and you had a design for it. Well, as a marketer, we had to get the voice of the customer to be input on that. Okay, you had to take that, and then you had to take that to the design team. But then the manufacturing team had to say, okay, what can we do and what can't we do? And then you have to work with the finance team. And then we had to work with our dealers. And how do you help them sell what was actually most appealing about the car to the customer that we learned? So it might have been on a longer time frame, and I might not have needed to work with the supply chain head because it wasn't as though I had to change things up as quickly as we do here at a true retail environment. But all of that is really understanding the interconnectivity of the corporation and how nothing succeeds unless you are all working in lockstep. As my team, the CX and the CM, the marketing team, we could have all these great ideas. And if I didn't have an IT partner making it come to life, online and in store, if I didn't have the merchants being creative and helping to package these things and working with the right, providers of the merchandise, or the store ops team, making that come to life in the store, we would be nowhere.
Wow.
So at this point, I'm going to come in with some questions. We've had some great questions here. Let me put one up here just now.
What a great view of a company. It sounds to me like the company is like, you're like almost like a 900 store startup. In some ways, the leadership team operates like literally like a team, like a soccer team, where I know I'm playing my position, but I know exactly that if I'm if I'm a striker, then I know that the midfield is passing me the ball and I need to make the goal. And in some ways, it's sort of an orchestration. It's not a hierarchical sort of. I think it's
it's a trust. You've got to trust your partner to do their work. Because if you don't trust them, then you're getting in there and you're pulling things apart, and it creates it's a very important part. I thought you were going to say soccer, like the 2-year-old soccer, where they all chase the ball, the whole team. Not that. Professional.
Good analogy. Thank you.
So let me come in here with a question from Andrew. So he's asking, can Julie share more info on the work that is being done to understand the customer and their right now ever-changing needs?
Yeah. Well, so thank you, Andrew, for the question. The very first thing I did within the first 2 weeks on the job, this was December pre-pandemic. In addition to going around and listening, and I would say you spend the first 2 weeks really trying to talk and learn as much as you can. But my first real action, if you will, was to bring in a CX guru. So we've got this guy named Brad Smith. He's a well-known customer experience journey mapping professional and very analytical. It's very quantitative. And I say this because it's important, because people talk about mapping the customer journey a lot these days. It's become and I'm excited about it, but it's like Kleenex or the color green. It's like there's a lot of different definitions. And so when I'm talking about mapping the customer experience, I mean like literally mapping it very quantitatively. It's almost the leaky bucket analysis, where you can see where people fall off. Why do they fall off? And what parts? And really getting into that experience journey to understand what it is that we may be doing to make them fall off, or where we're not doing to make them fall off, either one. And so that is the first thing that I think that you have to do. And then you fast forward it to a pandemic, and I might not be able to go as in depth into the customer mapping the way that we did pre-pandemic, but we did actually sort of do that, and we did it mostly online, which is great because you're able to track people's experiences online. I should have mentioned that one of the things that we did during this pandemic is we overhauled the call center as well. And in the call center, because that's the first line for customers, and especially during a pandemic when stores are closed and they're all going online, that interplay and that interaction was really eye-opening, and we had a lot of work to do.
You have a lot of learning from that. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah.
And that led us to a lot of Andrew's question, to what there was learnings in there that we heard that helped us improve the experience online, and it's very cool still today.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thanks, Julie. We've got another question here. Zach Breaker. Did the word party in a pandemic change its meaning and tone? Did you have to manage the associations and recast what party means?
Yep, I remember reading the question. Yeah, for sure, definition of party changed during pandemic. It was no longer, despite the news reports we get of college kids partying in the traditional way. It became much more, certainly at the onset, it became completely isolated. There was nobody getting together, not even family. And that was sad because you had like elderly relatives who, you couldn't go see for fear of them, frankly, of infecting them. And so creating an opportunity to send balloons. I mean, that was the beauty of the delivery. And, we've got Shipt as a big partner of ours now too in the delivery cycle. And you think about, I always say, I dare anybody not to put a smile on their face when somebody hands you a balloon. And we've got some amazing balloons. We've got these things called heirlooms. And it's like a stormtrooper that floats and we have crazy good balloons. And you can deliver that, and that's what happened. You delivered that to grandma's house, and then you hopefully you had taught them how to get onto FaceTime or Zoom or something, and so they could get on with you. And you had this balloon in their background, and you could be on there and you could talk to them, and it just added something to the normal conversation. And so even if it wasn't a party, we wanted to create a joyful experience for the typical interactions. And I think because in a pandemic, that was more necessary than ever because of the isolation that people were feeling. That's what we really tried to lean into. And then for the real parties, I'd already talked about kind of what we tried to do, whether it was like the graduation or the birthdays or the gender reveals, is do things where it wasn't about just the selling of the stuff, but it was helping you create an itinerary. We created backyard summer camps because summer camps were canceled everywhere. So we created these kits for summer camps that you could have sent to your house. But that's not enough. I mean, think about mom and dad who are working and now have kids at home that aren't going to summer camp. Oh my God. And like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to think up things for them to do? Well, we created itineraries that were free and downloadable on the site with all the activities that you could do. The things came, they helped to support those itineraries, but the free content that we gave was as important, if not more important, than the things that we sold along with it. And so that's really how things evolved during this pandemic.
It's kind of interesting. On one side, the demand or the demand goes down because to the question of the viewer, the way you think of party changes. But in the pandemic, it doesn't come down and then gradually comes up. We all start going to hotels again. We all go take an airplane again. It's not like coming back again. It's coming back in a totally new way. In some ways, you need to also reinvent. While things are down, while your sales come down, the typical party experience comes down, and then you need to come up with entirely new experiences, which is.
So I guess from that, Eric, from the changes, a lot of people have said that the changes during the pandemic, in many ways, it's been this sort of seismic jolt. These things were going to happen, but it's just that it's suddenly accelerated us. Did you feel that a lot of the stuff that you've actually done with Party City, Julie, is it stuff that you probably were going to do in the future anyway, but it's just accelerated?
100%. So curbside, same day delivery, they were all on our roadmap, buy online, ship from store, all on the roadmap. We fast forwarded them a lot, and we just went for it, right? And like I said, I actually think that this is me talking. I think that there's some goodness in that, because I do think in a corporation you can know what's right. So we knew we needed to do buy online, pick up from curbside. We knew we needed to do same day delivery, and so in a traditional manner, we wanted to map it out and how best to do it, and like what technologies and how do we do the store associates. And so it takes time. And when you're faced with a pandemic, we decided to forego all of that, which of course is a risk because it's not going to be a perfect experience. But we chose to have an imperfect experience and just get the experience going to be able to service the customer. And the nice thing about a pandemic, if there is a nice thing, is that the customer, I think, was more forgiving. They understood and appreciated the fact that you were trying to do something, and that while not perfect, they had a lot of tolerance for that. Now that we're getting out, I think their patience for that kind of thing is waning, and so we've got to be good. But we've had time to get good at it now, and we're getting better every day.
By the way, I call this the changing expectations on customers. If you are in a transaction business, and then the customer says, so why can't I, if I get it at Amazon in an hour, why can't I have it from Party City? Let's say there's almost like you serve me. But when you say, look, our experience is imperfect, we try as hard as we can, you establish a very different customer relationship. They are much more forgiving. They give you a break, and I think that's where it's going. Sort of rather than this one-way pipeline thinking. We push product to you, we market to you. Hey, we are also learning from you. You are part of our learning experience.
And that was a really building that communication. And we put a lot of communication. Brad, our CEO, we put emails. We tried to be as direct and transparent as possible. But we also very much had to react to things outside of the pandemic. We all know that in addition to the pandemic, right now we're facing social unrest. I mean, today in particular, we're talking about the NBA canceling, but it was very heightened earlier on in this pandemic. And so in addition to having to have a position on the pandemic and having a conversation with our customer, we also had to talk about that. And so this has been a very interesting time, and certainly challenging, but I also think a really great push, if you can, right? I think companies can become complacent, and I don't mean, certain companies, I mean all companies, because you kind of get into the groove of what you do. And these things that are really important to our customers, health, the social, equality, all of these types of things, we can sometimes as companies sit to the side and watch unless it directly affects us based on what it is that we do. But in this case, it affected every company, whether or not you had anything to do directly with what was happening. Everybody was directly involved because we are all people of the same community and the same race, the human race. And that was a very, I think it was, like I said, a great push. And we moved, we've set up a diversity and inclusion council as a result. It forced us to do things that, again, we were planning to do, but we just, like, these things hit you, and it's like, you know what, we can either sit back and watch, or we can jump in. And we decided to jump in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've got a fantastic question here from Moody. When we talk about the pandemic there and the changes that it's caused, he's asking, has the purpose statement of the company changed in reaction to COVID? Are there any brand behaviors that you're highlighting for this new era of doing business? So that's interesting. The actual sort of core of the marketing purpose itself, has that had to change? Has the idea of the brand itself had to evolve during COVID?
Actually, just the opposite. So we had reestablished our company's purpose, which I mentioned once, which is to help people create joy by making it easy to create unforgettable memories. That's our purpose. We call it our party promise, right? That's our promise. And we had developed that pre-COVID. And I would tell you that the opposite is true. COVID didn't make us change that. It made us double down on that, because more than ever, we had to, creating joy was essential, and making it easy for people to create the unforgettable memories, even more essential. And I hope that in some way, look, nobody's going to forget 2020. Nobody who's living in this is going to forget 2020. But I hope that they can, in some elements, there's some really great memories that will come from it, which is during the pandemic, when you expected the worst, that you had an opportunity, and we were hopefully a small part of helping you make that happen, to create an unforgettable memory. We will never forget my son's graduation, ever. And it was a very different graduation experience than my other son, who graduated 3 years before. It is an unforgettable memory. And I had a lot of balloons from Party City, so Party City played a role. I had a lot of personalized signs. And I hope that is the case. But the doubling down on that, I think, was key. Double down on customer first, double down on easy. That was our commitment, and it just reinforced that we were on the right track with what our promise is.
I really like that a lot, because my experience is that if you create a brand purpose or a purpose for the corporation, and you throw it out or revise it in 6 months later, you probably haven't arrived at a good brand purpose. And it should be much more enduring. And what I like about it is that it provides almost like, if it's intangible, however, but it provides a guiding light of what you should do and what you should not do. It's not like if you don't have a purpose, then you rely on, we don't do curbside delivery, or we don't do direct delivery to home. We are a store. So you think of the tangibles, but in a pandemic, in sort of a massive transformation of a company, some of those intangible values are manifested in a purpose. And the why, I think, is really a much better guidance of what you can do and what you should not do in some way. So.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, let's go for one last question here. So this is it's just saying LinkedIn user. I don't know who it is, but thank you. How much is Julie betting on outside partners and relationships in our transformation efforts?
A big part. Look, at the end of the day, you talk about our curbside and our same day, just as an example. I had the opportunity to talk with Kelly Caruso, who is the CEO of Shipt. They are a massive partner for us in our same day delivery. And as I mentioned, Halloween is our big season. Did I mention Halloween's our big season? And so, we wanted to be able to share with her what our vision is and what our strategy is, and the importance of the role that they play in helping us be successful in that time period. And so we very much rely on them. We've got another technology partner that kind of connects all of our delivery partners, our last mile partners, with us and with our customer. They're a technology company called Bring. You look at all of our partners. Everybody's a partner in some way, right? Whether because we manufacture, so we're our own partner in some ways, but because we manufacture 80% of what we sell in stores. But we've got to help and rely on them to make sure that we're getting what we need. We certainly have partners, for our web. We've got outside partners, for marketing. So this is it does take a village, there's no doubt, but it does have to be led from within. All of those partnerships can only be successful if we as a team are 100% committed and 100% aligned. And I don't just mean the marketing and experience team. Again, I'm talking about the whole team. And that's why as I join new companies, my number one litmus test is the people, not necessarily, second is quickly the business plan and the future that I think it has. But number one is people, because you are working with people at the end of the day. And if you can't build that trust, that, professional soccer team that you discussed, Eric, if you can't build that and think that you can work that way, none of this is going to work. That is the most important thing. And then building that and having that flow all the way through is what is going to allow you to be successful, because then everybody's going to be giving the same message to all the partners, whether they're the partners that I engage with, or the partners at the merchants, or the ops, or IT, or supply chain, whoever partners with them. We are then all giving the same guidance and the same message. And that is key, because as a company gets bigger, it becomes very easy to become, be fractionalized all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Julie, that was fantastic. Can I thank you so much for being so generous with your time and with your opinions and your knowledge. We've had some great stuff happening there in the comments. And Eric, thank you so much for leading the conversation there. You understand this area. This is it was great to sort of have the two of you sparking off each other. For those of you out there who have been watching, thank you so much. For those of you who will be watching on playback, thank you very much. For those who put stuff in comments, I love you. And I want to see you back here. We're going to be back again soon, especially because in less than 3 weeks' time, as I've said, Eric's book is being launched, and we're excited about that, and we hope that you will join us there. But for just now, thank all of you very much, especially you, Julie. It's much appreciated. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me. This was
great.
fun.
Thank you.